All right, thanks for coming, and I'm the volunteer for the session. I'll time everyone, so here's the 1 minute notice, and then there's an 8 minutes notice as well. We can start.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Cole. I am from Eastern New Mexico University, and today I am presenting my presentation on Don't Whistle at Night, the Haunted Chord, and other global folklore parallels. So, across the globe, the rule is the same. Don't whistle at night. A tiny sound tends to become capable of calling spirits, snakes, or whatever else listens after dark. This presentation in particular looks into why this idea is so widespread, and it also pulls from folklore and ethnography. What we see emerge is a cross-cultural pattern where people use sound as a way to feel safer, to set boundaries, and to navigate the vulnerability of the night. Taboos aren't random, they're boundary-making tools. Nighttime rules, like avoiding whistling, protect people at the edges of the physical and spiritual risk. Sound plays a key role. Whistles, cries, and calls become signals in the dark where the world feels thinner and the unseen feels closer. Anthropology shows us that taboos, like sound or the night, form an interconnected system, which helps communities manage uncertainty and maintain the fragile line between the living and whatever moves in the dark. So, first section that we're looking at is East and Southeast Asia. So within East and Southeast Asia, breath-based sound is tied directly to the spirit world. Within Japan, ghost lore is full of subtle auditory signs. The yurei are said to announce themselves with faint breaths, drifting whistles, or the kind of tonal shifts that make the air feel wrong. Night whistling is treated as a signal. It's treated as something that can draw spirits, serpents, or other beings who react to these sounds. This warning shows up across Japanese diaspora folklore as well. In Korea and China, we have a similar logic. Korean proverbs insist that whistling after dark invites ghosts or snakes as well, and it frames the sound as a disturbance that cracks open the boundary of the home. In Chinese folklore belief, because whistling manipulates breath, it's treated as a call, something that can summon or irritate wandering spirits. Across Southeast Asia, especially among seafaring groups, whistling is explicitly taboo. Folklore warns that it can call up storms, anger sea spirits, and attract restless beings that travel over open water. This shared idea throughout the region is incredibly clear. Whistling isn't just a noise, it's a controlled breath. It's a powerful signal which is capable of summoning or unsettling the unseen. Moving into North America, the Dine and I have to make sure I say it correct, Dinesuline, I want to make sure I said that right. In many Indigenous North American traditions, wind and breath aren't just the weather, they're living forces. So among the Dine, the wind carries spirits, memories, and danger, and interacting with it at night is never a casual experience. A whistle which is carried in the dark can draw the attention of powerful beings which move through that space. For the Dinesuline, or Dine, high-pitched sounds, especially whistles, are understood to attract wandering spirits, and they mimic the voices of non-human beings that travel through the dark. Sound itself is seen as being alive, and it's capable of carrying intention and reaching into the unseen itself. Both of these traditions share the logic that night is boundary-thin time. Certain actions, like sharp, deliberate whistles, function as openings within this time. They're moments that can widen the space between worlds. Instead of being a trivial sound, whistling becomes an act that interacts with an animate landscape, potentially calling wind spirits, revenants, or other forces that move through the night. So within these contexts, the taboo isn't just superstition, it's protection. It's a way of respecting the unseen world that surrounds the living. Moving into Africa, we're looking at the Hadza. So in many sub-Saharan African traditions, sound is a way of managing your relationship with spirits, the ancestors, and the land itself. Among the Hadza, nighttime bells are actually used as protective sound markers, and each of these rings signals presence and territory. It's not just to people, but to beings believed to move through forest after dark. These bells protect against predators, very true, but they also guard against spiritual forces that travel at night. After dusk, managing sound becomes kind of a negotiation within the landscape itself. Across West and Southern Africa, whistling at night is incredibly strongly discouraged. It's said to summon spirits, serpents, or misfortune, and in some communities is treated as mocking or challenging ancestral forces. These warnings mirror the Hadza logic that silence can be protective, but in the wrong sound can knock on the wrong door. So throughout the region, whistling is viewed as risky because it sends breath or a life force directly into the unseen. At night, this sharp exhalation can attract power that is better left alone. So the taboo here isn't just superstition either. It's about maintaining a balance in a spiritually charged nighttime world. Moving into Latin America. In Latin America, nighttime and sound are some of the strongest markers of spiritual presence. The figure of El Silbón captures that perfectly. He's a wandering revenant who is announced by an eerie whistle that carries impossibly far into the dark. His whistle works like an omen, and it's a boundary marker, and he signals a being moving between the lands of the living and the dead. This same logic runs through the story of La Llorona, whose cries along the rivers and roadsides at night act as warnings. It's a soundscape of danger, grief, and ruptured relationships. Her voice communicates the moral stakes of crossing these kind of boundaries, where you shouldn't, whether social, familial, or spiritual boundaries. Together, these two folklore tales, the Silbón and La Llorona, show us how nighttime sounds across these regions are read as signs of spiritual proximity as well as cosmological disturbances. And among many indigenous communities in the Amazon and the Andes, this relationship between sound and spirit is even more explicit. Sound itself is tied to a being's sound soul, so that is an animated essence expressed through songs, whistles, and ritual calls. These sounds can summon beings, shift perceptions, and transform relations between humans and non-humans. In this way, Latin American night sounds and whistling taboos are not just folklore, they're reflections on animacy, morality, and how permeable the night is. And then moving into Europe, night whistling sits right at the intersection in Europe at danger, weather, and the supernatural. So in Great Britain, there's the tale of the Seven Whistlers, and they are said to fly at night with sharp, piercing calls that foretell death or shipwrecks. One of the clearest examples of whistling omen that we see in Europe. In Scotland and Wales, we have some similar warnings where whistling after dark is believed to call the wind or attract fae-like spirits moving through the hills. In Ireland, we see the taboo of whistling to the Sidhe, the otherworld beings. A whistle at night is thought to disturb them or invite their attention, and that's never something you want. We don't want to attract the Sidhe. These beliefs flow straight into the maritime Europe tradition, where sailors insist that whistling raises storms or angers sea spirits. And in mining regions like in Germany and Cornwall, whistling is said to offend the underground beings like the kobolds and the knockers. And they control luck and safety below the earth. So across Europe, we see the same pattern. High-pitched whistling as an act of an omen or as a summons. It's a boundary breach, and it's a sound that reaches into places that humans aren't meant to speak to. So when we look across these traditions, we see a pretty clear pattern. Night thins the boundary between the living and the other. Sound becomes charged and powerful. It's uncertain, and it's a little dangerous. A whistle is a tiny little human act. A little sound suddenly reads as a summons or a disturbance or an invitation to whatever moves within the dark. These taboos aren't random. They're ways that communities turn the fear of the unknown into simple protective rules. Do this, don't do that, so people can navigate the hours when the world feels less predictable. And cross-culturally, sound becomes a tool that guides navigation. It marks boundaries, it signals presence, and reminds people that the night is not empty. In the end, the lesson is the same, almost everywhere. Whistling in the dark is a way of speaking to the unknown, and it's better not to invite anything that'll speak back. Thank you.